Welcome back, guys, to another edition. This one's a special edition of the Daily Sip. I'm with my main man, Kyle, over at No Hype Beer Reviews. We've been working and doing some stuff with Kyle for, oh man, I don't even know how many months now you've been a subscriber.
I think it goes back to October 2019. I think.
Damn. So pre-COVID,
Yes.
pre-COVID, back when the world still had a little semblance of normalcy. Uh, so I've known Kyle for a while now. It feels like a very long time, but this is the first time we're actually having a conversation outside of, just emailing, social media, and just watching a lot of his awesome videos on YouTube. So I'm super excited. So Kyle, tell the people what's up.
Yeah. Thanks for having me. And yeah, it's we're talking off camera. It's kind of surreal having a conversation because you feel like you know someone. I watched some of your videos, all the emailing, the social media and stuff, and we've definitely talked. And then now we're actually having a conversation. That's rad. But yeah, no, I do beer reviews on YouTube. No Hype Beer Reviews. Just past the 3-year mark. So yeah, I've been doing it for a while, and it's just cool. It's as we know, craft beer is a fun hobby. You can socialize that way, and this is just another platform for me to meet people and socialize like we're doing right now.
Right, absolutely. And this guy is one of the most consistent people I've seen in the beer industry on, YouTube in general. Like, I feel like I'm always getting a notification that you're popping out fresh content. I'm like, man, how does this guy is drinking those beers on the daily?
One a day. That's my goal. One a day.
Hey, but at least you turned that into actually, doing something with it.
Yeah.
And not that there's anything wrong with just having a really good beer a day and not recording yourself and sharing that experience, but you found a way to take your passion and share it with others. And people have, I always see they're always commenting on your videos, nothing but positive stuff to say. And I feel like the views, people are like waiting for your videos to pop, and then the views just skyrocket. I'm like, man, now those are relationship goals right there.
It is weird. Like I've gotten a couple of comments about it too, like people saying, "Oh yeah, I like when you post early in the morning because I watch it before, as I'm getting ready for work or whatever." Right. It's like, oh wow, like okay, that's pretty cool. And not like having a big head about it, but it's kind of cool. Like, oh, someone's out there like looking forward to new content. I mean, you know what it's like. People get your box and you're like, whoa, cool. This is, I was anticipating this. I was excited for this. And yeah, it's rad. It's cool. And yeah, I love it.
Definitely a humbling experience. Yeah. Someone had messaged me on Facebook with the recent daily sip that we did, the pulse on the craft beer industry in Pittsburgh with, COVID and everything. We contacted a bunch of, frontline people on the home brewing side, brewery side. And we put together a little mini panel, just hung out and just talked. And it was just, you think that even though you see views on stuff, right? You think, oh, no one's really watching this. But when someone shot me a message, they were like, hey, thanks so much for doing this. This is one of the best little panels that I've seen recently, real conversation. And they even shared a moment. So one of the guys, Bobby Nacho, he is the adjunct brewer at Couch Brewery down the east end of Pittsburgh. Yeah. And so, obviously with everyone doing everything at home, he shot his just hanging out in his bedroom because, he has kids. They were taking over the rest of the house. And this man is like the Swiss Army knife of brewers. He rolled over out of his bed and pulled out beer from under his bed. But on camera, it just looks like the guy got up and then fell out of bed. Like people were just cracking up about it and, shooting us messages. So it's just to your point, you think it's just, you having fun with it, which that's how you're doing it right. But people are actually watching it and they're enjoying it. And it's such a good experience and feeling. But I digress, man. Let's definitely crack into a beer. So did you already have yours poured? No, you're doing it fresh. You're doing it fresh. All right, let's get this bad boy poured up. I made sure I triple cleaned this awesome glass so that way, Dirty Glass Mafia.
We're wearing the same shirt and now we're using the same glass. That's too funny.
Dude, that is awesome. My wife is going to start thinking, like, hey, are you and Kyle doing something?
Any of this.
Is this a long distance relationship, a bromance?
I spilled a little bit. Grab a paper towel right here.
Hey, you were prepared, man. You got paper towels on deck, ready to go.
Well, I know I'm a mess, so you know it's. But yeah, I wore this shirt for two reasons. Well, a few reasons. I love this shirt. I said in my unboxing. It's another awesome drink local message, and I wanted to use this glass too. But we mentioned maybe doing two beers on this, and I wanted to pick one that was kind of local to you that I had, and then one that's local to me. So the first one's one that's pretty local to you. It's from 4 Points Brewing.
Oh yeah, good old 4 Points.
And they're help me out, maybe Charleroi, PA. Charleroi.
Oh, Charleroi.
Charleroi. Okay.
Yeah.
PA. So yeah, it's a 4.5% fruited sour. It's black cherry.
Damn.
Yeah.
That sounds delicious.
Yeah, I haven't had it yet, so I only had the one. So
nice. Well, we'll definitely jump in and talk about these brews. So what I pulled up was from 11th Hour Brewing right here in Pittsburgh. It's Makeshift Dynamite. So it's a New England style IPA coming in at 8%. It's a super delicious beer. Now, I will admit I have had this beer before, but recently. This is one of their Makeshift Dynamite series is one of my favorite beer series that happens out in Pittsburgh. It's a super juicy, tasty beer. So how they describe it, pungent with mosaic hops, and it erupts with aromas of ripe strawberry, plump blueberry, red raspberry, and pineapple. So just so much juicy tastiness going on. This is one of those beers that it's a little heavier as far as being a daily drinker, but I can still do it. So definitely cheers.
Cheers.
Yeah. Oh, that's good. That's good. I know you definitely have a way with words. So are you able to tell me a little bit about that brew? Because I know I personally haven't had that one. Even though Charleroi is local, respectively compared to it's still about 45 minutes out there. I love the brewery, love the brewer, I love the owner, great guys out there. But I do not get to appreciate as many of their beers as I should. So are you able to tell me a little bit about that brew?
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, my friend Chris sent it to me. He's in Ohio, but he likes to pop over, so he's in the Pittsburgh scene in that area a little bit as well. I've had some New England, whether single, double IPAs from them. This is my first sour from them. Yeah, it's quite good. You get a little bit of that, biscuity malt, that coming through, but it definitely has a nice level of sour. It kind of gets you salivating a little bit. Good punch of the black cherry. My wife doesn't like black cherry. I think this definitely has too much where she wouldn't want this beer, just to kind of give you a gauge of, it's not just like juice from it, but it has enough of it. I think if you don't like that flavor, this wouldn't be for you. I happen to love that flavor. But yeah, I mean, this is 4.5%. That's awesome.
That's it? All that flavor without the risk. I love it.
That's nice. That's nice. Now, are you getting the fruits coming through in yours that they were talking about?
Yeah. So the fruits are coming up. I would say definitely. I think they explained it more so on the nose. Erupts with aromas, right? Yeah. So mouthfeel, you definitely get the juiciness. You get a lot of flavor on the back end. But so I think 11th Hour Brewing also does a phenomenal job in marketing their beers, right? Okay. And part of that is understanding on a granular level what each hop that you're using actually does. So that way you can paint the picture very well. Because every time I read their description on beers, I'm like, man, this place is going to make me go broke. Everything sounds so good, and the end result is a really tasty beer. But let me get another sip on it.
That's awesome.
Oh, yeah. You definitely get that hazy mouthfeel on that brew as well. But it's not afraid to actually give you a punch with hops on the back end, which I appreciate, because if it was just all milk, shaky, sweet, I'm not the biggest fan on those. Not saying that you can't produce a good beer that way. It's just I for sure cannot drink a lot of those, but they balance it out very well with giving you a traditional, I don't want to say necessarily West Coast style back end, but they're not afraid to use the hops for bittering, at all. So I definitely appreciated that with this beer.
My friend Jim likes to bust my chops because I said a decent amount in reviews where I'm like, you still know you're drinking a beer, and
Right.
at the end of the day, I like the crazy flavors they're coming up with, and if it's fruit or not, or if they're getting it from the hops, but like, I do want it to still drink like a beer. So I totally get that and appreciate what you're saying. Yeah.
Absolutely. Because in a world of hazies, it's nice to get a little something there on the beer itself. But to jump in, I know you definitely had some topics you wanted to discuss. Did you want to just throw something out there and just talk about it organically?
We both kind of had ideas and questions and stuff, which I like the safety net of it, and one of the things I definitely wanted to ask you about, and just because it was recent, with Mother's Day and everything, you had put out that Fearless video about your mother, and I think it's pretty obvious, maybe the why of it. You're remembering your mom. It's around Mother's Day. But I was more curious, and you can speak to that obviously, but just like what it felt like to put something emotional, I just put up beer reviews, right? Like I don't talk like, oh, I'm having a family issue or whatever, you know what I'm saying? But then there's this human quality where you feel connected to people when they do open up like that, it's like I appreciated it. It's like, oh, I'm knowing more about you now, So I think it was on brand, but on the surface, it doesn't feel that way. Anyway, just I guess anything and everything about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So great question. I think part of being able to do that is self-awareness, right? And it's not, especially, that wasn't just on our, personal Facebook. We did that across, our personal, our business brand. It's self-awareness in knowing how you communicate and how you want your brand to be perceived, right? Not everyone wants to put their personal life out there, and that's fine. I looked at it as something. So basically, if you haven't seen the video, go to our either Facebook page at First Sip Brew Box or jump on YouTube at First Sip Brew Box. Scroll down. I would say it's probably, 30, 40 videos deep on there, or just type in First Sip Brew Box Fearless in quotations. It's a video that after my mother passed away from cancer, this was 2018, basically right around Christmas. And obviously that's a very emotional experience. And the U.S. Army reached out to us. It was just a serendipity of putting as much content out there. So this gentleman, he is a journalist type guy for the U.S. Army, and me being an Army veteran, he was traveling to Pittsburgh for a big conference about a year ago. And he saw, we're a veteran-owned company, what we do. He was like, hey, that's pretty cool. Sent us a bunch of questions. We got to talking. He heard like that part of our past because, my mom was and is a big motivational and inspirational part about us even starting this business, growing up, not having a lot, and growing up in the struggle. I always knew that, hey, I wanted to start my own thing. I didn't want to always work for someone else. And that's just me, right? That's just my self-awareness, knowing that. And, he reached out to us, we talked, and he actually, through conversation, he was like, hey man, at the time, he was like, so where are you making all these boxes? We have a co-working space down Bakery Square of Pittsburgh at Ascender. We have an office and stuff there, but we do all that. We actually package everything out of this second, bedroom office that we have in our house. We turned into kind of like an Amazon fulfillment center. And so we set it up for him to come down to our co-working space that we're a part of to shoot the video. But he was like, hey, where are you actually doing all this? We're like, our house. He's like, man, I'd much rather come there. Like, let's make this real. I was like, let's do it. So he came here, and just through him being a great storyteller, and I'm not an emotional person. If it was up to me, I just would never really talk about anything ever. So that was kind of a turning point for me, realizing, oh, this is how you get this. Well, this is one way how you, kind of get through stuff. So to get back to your question, me sharing on my platform, I'm self-aware enough to know that that's okay for me to share that part of my life. But also knowing that, you know, that's how I work through stuff. And that's kind of a turning point when I realized that. And it definitely helped me in a healthy way, you know, deal with the passing of my mom, but also it acts as at least in my mindset, a monument to what she has done for me.
Yeah.
So just like the Lincoln Memorial, you know, 2020 version, I put that out there because I'm proud of it and I want people to see it. I want people, if they're going through something, especially, you know, us going through COVID right now, like we have no idea the mental health ramifications that we're going to see. My wife is a family behavioral therapist, and that's what I always say. And she's like, "That's not exactly right," but I don't know their whole jargon and lingo, so that's just what I say. She does, and she's even seeing it now. You know, so just by me being vulnerable and putting that stuff out there can hopefully help someone, you know, deal with whatever they're going through or know that they're not alone going through something like that. So that was kind of the motivation, inspiration behind it, and just having that awareness piece of being able to show that humility and vulnerability by also doing it with our brand.
Yeah. And it was so organic, you know, like you could, sometimes you watch an advertisement, it's like, this is hokey or this is,
right.
You know, like, and it was, and I guess it's a credit to the, you know, person who put it together as well. I mean, it was, and again, I think stories are important to brands.
Right.
The specific story was so personal. Obviously, it transcends that. It's its own thing upon that. And I get that for sure. I'm all emotional, so I have to like reserve myself. So I'm a teacher, a high school teacher, and once a week I post for my students a check-in video that has nothing. It's not academic. It's just human, you know, stuff. And the one week I just would have an off week. It sucked. I mean, this stuff, there's ups and downs, and it sucks not being in school with them. And I do all the boring, awful parts of my job, grading and all that, and I don't get the fun stuff, you know. And it's wearing on me, you know. And I was going back and forth. Should I talk about that in a video, or should I just be like the strong, stoic teacher to them? I'm like, no, like show them, you know, it's okay to have a bad day, a week, or whatever. Maybe give them some pointers on, you know, how to, you know, feel better. You know, reach out to people, have, you know, fun conversations, play a virtual game with someone, whatever. And you know, a few kids, you know, reached out. One of them, you know, ROTC tough kid, you know, and he's just like, I'm not doing okay, and I really appreciate you being, you know, who you are, like saying like it's okay not to feel okay right now. So yeah, I'm the other way, but it is sometimes okay, whether the profession or what we're trying to do, to be like, yeah, this is some real stuff that's little off brand, but you need to hear it maybe, or you might appreciate hearing it, you know?
Right. No, that's definitely a good point with how interconnected we are as a society. We feel like we're more connected, but I think there's less human things going on now, more so than ever. You know, we feel like we're connected with everyone because we have 4,000 friends on Facebook, but that's not real.
Yeah.
Right. And I think sometimes we we don't realize that. So when we actually, you know, have that interpersonal connectivity with someone, it means even more than it did, you know, 40, 50 years ago, where you had, you know, close group of people that you interacted with all the time.
Yeah. Other than making lunch with my wife, this is the most human interaction I've had today, you know, like, but this is the times, you know?
Right. That is true. This is going to be the new normal for a minute now, you know, depending upon opening. And I think even, you know, the opening strategies that they have, you're going to have a few, you know, hardcore craft beer people that are going to run back out to the breweries like nothing ever happened. Yeah, you're going to have that. But I think most people are still you're going to be seeing them still wearing masks, which I'm not necessarily saying I won't. But you're still going to see a lot of people ordering online, doing pickups, that kind of stuff. I think it's going to be that way for a little while now.
Yeah. For sure. And even as it opens back up, yeah, it's not going to go back to normal on the turn of a dime. I mean, it's going to
Right.
have to ease into that. And no, for sure. Yeah, I get that. Yeah.
You know, so you had mentioned it, one of my questions, what I've always been curious about with you is you had mentioned you're a teacher, right? Social studies, right?
Yes.
If I
Yeah.
recall. So how has it helped you create the platform that you have, whether it's, you know, different qualities, different things that you've learned from being a teacher, that kind of stuff?
Yeah, I think it's part of why I started the channel is, I had been watching people do beer reviews for a while,
Mm.
and then it kind of clicked, like, you explain things for a living, like you probably could turn a camera on and explain the things you're tasting. And being like a foodie and all that, like I kind of like knowing
Oh, you're
what
definitely a
I'm doing.
foodie for sure.
Oh, yeah. No, for sure. Yeah, being Facebook friends, yeah, you see sometimes my food I'm cooking. But I mean, that's probably the biggest thing. You know what's interesting, and again, because we shared these questions ahead of time, my mind almost went the opposite way, doing the beer reviews and filming them, how much easier it was for me. You hear about a lot of teachers, like how they had to switch all of a sudden to this online instruction. I'm like, oh, I know how to make a video.
I've
But
been
like,
doing it.
yeah, so like it was just like, okay, I had to take like all my beer stuff down for when I do videos with my students, but make sure I'm not wearing a beer shirt. But but it was kind of funny because I've told that story before of how, like, yeah, you explain things for a living. Just there's a new way to do that, with something another thing you like, beer. But then it had this other thing recently where it's like, oh, now that you've been making videos for a few years, you know how to do that, and you can make them and send those out every week to the kids to help them learn and feel comfortable and all that. So yeah, kind of cool two-way street.
Right. I never realized that, I never thought of it from that point of view, but it makes sense.
Yeah.
Before you take the leap and actually doing videos and everything like this, what you do with beer reviews, what we do with the Daily Sip, it is intimidating at first, right? Like so before we launched our Daily Sip series, we've done tons of podcasts, right? My goal is always to do 3 to 5 different podcasts every single month.
Okay.
Because, to put in the work to help grow your SEO, your search engine optimization, where people know about you, they find you, they go and check you out. And honestly, I found that I just love having conversations. And my wife definitely knew that, because once I started doing podcasts, she loved that I would come home tired and didn't want to talk. And she's like, yes, because I just, keep going. Yeah, she just walked in because we have First Sip Productions in our living room. And she was like, oh, God, that is so true. Oh, she also said, hi, Kyle.
What's going on?
That doing things like this, it definitely helps you a whole lot in not being nervous and not worrying about what you look like, not worrying about, wearing a, shirt that you had hanging around because we may or may not have been wearing the same shirt accidentally initially. It helps you realize that whatever you're self-conscious about, and this goes out to everyone, whatever you're self-conscious about, everyone else is self-conscious about something. So the example that I heard my main man Gary Vee use before is, in high school, if you have a pimple, and this is great, you could definitely speak to this too, Kyle, being a teacher. In school, if you have something that you think everyone else is staring at, guess what? More than likely, they're not staring at it because they're so self-conscious and worried about their thing that they think people are staring at. Yeah. So it kind of breaks down that barrier and gives you a little bit more confidence. So I definitely appreciate you sharing that.
I had heard a similar thing that I do like to share with my students as well. It's basically the same thing. If you're in a group setting and everyone shared everything that they're self-conscious about, every issue they have, and then you have the option to take someone else's stuff home with you and leave yours there, you'll go home with your own stuff every time. And I do think, for the most part, I mean, some people have really serious stuff, obviously.
Right.
But I do think for the most part that's true. And people, especially in the age of social media, you're just putting out your best life every day, the right angle and lighting.
Right.
It's like, oh, everyone's living better than me. It's like, no, they just snapped a nice picture, and that's
right.
That represents. Yeah.
And one of the, to that point, I was reading an article that most of these social media influencers, which, like it or not, I guess, someone told me that, hey, you're an influencer, right? I'm like, what? Like, we don't think of ourselves as that, right?
Yeah.
But some of the folks out there, they would break into a, small airport just to take photos in front of these private planes.
Yeah.
I'm like, just put your truth out there, truth as much as you can, because not only are you happier, by putting, all those make-believe things out there, people are going to know. Yeah. Like, hey, we have made it this far on this planet for a reason. We have different, whether it's creation or evolution, we have different traits where we're able to pick stuff like that up, right? Animals are able to sense, if there's an earthquake coming or something's happening. We're able to sense whenever we're being deceived or misled. And I think that's even been amplified because of social media, because you don't have those other distractions of your environment going on around you. You're specifically focusing just on what their message that they're doing right now. So if someone's being fake, and that stuff will catch up to them.
For sure.
And they will crash and burn. Crash and burn. So we had mentioned some of the positives of being a teacher and having a beer platform. I'm kind of curious. This is like a personal question I had for you. Has any of your students ever found your content and it was like, anything like that?
I don't think so. No, I don't use my full name. It's always just Kyle, No Hype Beer Reviews.
Right.
Just what's not Googleable, if that's
Googleable. Hey, I'm all about it, man.
Because I started, we relocated, just my wife wanted a different job. So I started a new job as well. And, I started that job and like kids are like, oh, I found this picture of you on the internet. It's like, wow, you guys are like really like typing in my name and like,
oh yeah.
It's like, okay, well, I guess it is smart that I've always had this policy of not, using my full name so you couldn't Google it and find it.
Right.
That being said, I do keep my channel clean in case a kid or a parent did find it. There's not like, a student would be able to make a compilation of me saying the F word 1,000 times,
Right. And you don't.
No, I don't. Yeah.
Yeah.
In my personal life, I swear and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
On the channel, I always keep it clean. But and actually, I've had some people comment that they like that, and
right.
For some people, that's a nice thing. And I get it, trying to keep it clean. But like the superintendent of my district, he distills, like he makes liquor and stuff. So,
that's awesome.
It's not something I would be fired for, and it's not
right.
Like,
and you couldn't, right? That's First Amendment stuff. They couldn't, but I guess they can find.
There is a morality clause. So there's some gray area. I don't work in a district where they would hold that against me.
Right.
But sadly, there are some, morality things that could.
But even your stuff, like it's so clean cut.
Oh, it's good.
And beer has been around since like the creation shortly after that. Well, since we started becoming like an agricultural society, like sure. Beer. And some people attribute beer to us being where we are today. And I know you as a social studies teacher definitely appreciates this. As far as like an agrarian culture, it gave us a reason to start staying in one spot and creating communities because, the different crops that they would create. I actually don't know where I learned that. It might have actually been your channel. I don't know if you
were. It's 100% true. It's 100% true. Yeah, no, and I just the other day, I hadn't told my current colleagues, but the other day we were doing a meeting and I forgot to switch my email address when we're doing these virtual meetings. So I pop on and someone's like, who's No Hype Beer Reviews? I'm like, oh, well, I never told you guys this. And they thought it was cool. And then I got a couple new subscribers.
Hey, that's awesome. It was all planned.
Yeah.
Kyle risked everything for 10 more subscribers. That's the hustle life, man.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, no, I don't know. It's just like, I don't know. I'm very, I drink at my house, and if I am out, I don't drink and, I don't get drunk and drive. So it's never going to be an article about me that pay, you just got to, I don't know, you kind of realize you are a role model in that way,
For sure, man. 100%. So how, just out of curiosity, how has COVID affected your consistency? And I definitely want you to answer this, your consistency with pushing out content. Is it allowing you to do more content? Is it you're not able to get out as much and well, I don't want to say even get as many brews, because like you have all the brews. So like, how's it affected you in that way?
You know what? When I saw that question, I was like, that's interesting, because I definitely have more time. I do keep normal work hours, but I'm not commuting, and
Right.
in some ways my job is less, stress. In some ways it's more stress. Some ways it's less. Some days it's more to do. So I mean, I definitely overall would have more time if I wanted to. I just actually, the big thing is weight gain.
Oh, damn. Yeah, I didn't even think about that.
Like I'm used to being on my feet, hours a day walking around, helping people. So now I sit way more. I long story short, I gained a bunch of weight last year, like 40 pounds. And I'm like,
Healthy. That's the American way right there.
that was a different job that I quit. It was a middle school, and I'm a high school teacher. So,
Yeah.
but I'd come home and I was just like, man, that's every day. I'm just like, that sucked. Let me just eat and, drink, and I'll be good. Not like crazy drinking, but like,
right.
eat and drink and not do anything. Well, you put on weight fast. So I finally stepped on a scale, and I gained 5 pounds since this all started. So I'm like, I got to be better about it. So I've lost that 5 pounds, and I just got to tackle the other 40. But I'm trying to do maybe 6 videos a week instead of every day. Another thing that was happening is, again, I try to drink 1 beer a day. It's like, I never repeat a beer I like, because I'm like, I have to do something new for the review.
Right. That is true.
It's kind of lame, because there's beers I want to, drink again, and not necessarily review. So sometimes my wife wants to split a beer I've reviewed, so maybe I'll pop a second one open or whatever. But, definitely could be doing way more, but actually trying to go the other way a little bit. Yeah.
Right. Well, and you say could be doing way more. I mean, 6 videos a week is a lot. Yeah. I mean, and again, I know we said respectively it's a lot. I mean, nothing comes to mind of people doing more than 6 or 7 videos a week. Like, I don't know if that is a thing, and I don't know if that's good for your, platform putting out more than 1 video a day. I think YouTube's traditionally the best formula at the high end for frequency is 1 video a day.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you say, cutting back, you're still cranking out that content. Like I said, I feel like every day I get up or go to do something, I get a notification. I'm like, oh man, another one. This is awesome.
Yeah.
So, and you had also mentioned that, doing a different beer every single time. Now, I know looking at the basement, it looks like you have a ton of great options.
Yeah.
But how much of all those brews have you already done? I mean, 6 days a week for the last, years like that. I mean, I don't know if you've always been at that frequency, but for the sake of math, I mean, that's you covered a lot of territory.
Yeah, I had dated a woman when I was in grad school, and we lived together for a little while, and she was big into a nightcap, which kind of is what got me in the habit of having a drink a day.
Right.
So yeah, it's some people who do the beer reviews, they'll do like 3 beers Friday, Saturday, Sunday. That's their thing. I just have always kind of been 1 beer a day, and that might be something like this where it's 4% alcohol. That might be a 15% barrel aged stout, like it, but 1 a day. I don't know. Yeah.
No, but it's definitely, some solid stuff there. So as far as like the basement, I don't know. I always thought of it as like the Bat Cave. Like every video I see, I'm like Tim Allen and Home Improvement. I'm like, oh. Just so some of our older subscribers out there, they'll get that for sure. And I just always thought to myself, like, how much of those beers have you not had on video yet down there?
So almost all of those, I would have had one fresh. So yeah, so if I started essentially the 1 a day, what was that, 15 years ago, and then maybe. Actually, the next beer I'm going to drink is a more local beer, and that one I've been aging for 5 years, I think. So maybe 9 years ago, I started kind of aging some beers, kind of experimenting with it.
Right. Oh
So,
yeah, doing like verticals and things
yeah,
like that.
yeah. So I typically if I'm going to age a beer, I'll, if I can get more than one, I'll drink one fresh, and then jot, either record a review or jot down thoughts or whatever, and then
Right.
when I come back to it, I can kind of, oh yeah, this did get better. Or that note rounded out, which I appreciate, or oh, I don't get vanilla in this anymore. That's lame.
Right.
Whatever. So almost everything, like, yeah, if you see me doing a review in my basement, all those beers behind me, almost all of them I've had once. Yeah.
Right. Now, whether on video or off video.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
That is so. my wife. So when I see someone ordering a massive meal and they're just destroying it, she looks at me and goes, "Don't you dare, end up eating like that." Yeah, but I'm like, the journey looks awesome, And to your point, like all those brews. And now, if you had pretty much one of everything back there, I'm like, man, that journey. The stories you can tell.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's cool. Like some of them were kind of obvious. Like Dogfish Head is pretty good about saying like, ages with the best of them. Like they'll write that on the label. So it's like, oh,
Right.
that's, do that as an experiment and age.
Right.
And stouts, higher ABVs, things like that lend itself, barley wines.
Right.
But yeah, it's just it's what you want out of the experience, and it's funny too. And I imagine you run into this as well. Sometimes I'm with someone, they're like, "Oh, I like wine." It's like not, I'm sorry, the way I just said it, but they're almost like apologetic. Like, I don't drink what you want. I don't care. Just because I'm drinking a beer and talk about beer, I don't care. You want to drink them,
Right.
Like I'm not judging. I don't care. Drink whatever you want.
Right. And I think so. That's a good point. I think alcohol, like libations, is one of the few things that happens with, because if you're out to dinner and you're having a burger and someone goes, "Oh, I only eat fish," like they're not apologetic about it at all. But libations, it's like, "I'm so sorry, I only drink wine."
Yeah. I honestly couldn't care unless you're force feeding me something I don't want. I don't care what you're drinking or eating.
And there's a lot of parallels too, right? Since libations have been around with humans for a very long time, there's a lot of crossover, right? So if someone only likes wine, you're like, "Hey, try this barley wine." You have ideas of what they may end up liking. Do you have any recommendations as far as what folks might, if they're a wine drinker or a whiskey and bourbon drinker, they don't necessarily absolutely hate beer, but they gravitate towards those? Do you have any styles with your plethora of experiences that you would recommend that they try out to see if that that's something for them?
Yeah, I mean, I think you have to lead with, well, what flavors do you like, and then go from there. If you like, I mean, there's what is it, the Nelson Sauvin hop gives you white wine. I mean, if you like white wine, that if it's a beer that's heavy with that, hey, just if you want to try something different, and I have people who are diehard, craft or Coors Light, for example. They're like, I don't care about craft too much, or they're like, hey, I know you guys are going to a local brewery after work for happy hour. I'll go, but like, do you have anything I want? It's just like, well, that's called a Pilsner, if you didn't know that. Again, you try not to talk down to people, but like, here's their Pilsner.
Hey, you should send them a couple links to some of your videos. Hey, you need to watch a couple of these before you come out.
Before you're gonna hang with this guy. But I think it's a big, and even sometimes like, oh, I like chocolate. It's like, you might like a stout actually, and there's things called chocolate stouts, or if someone's like, I don't like dark beers, and you see them drinking, black coffee every day, it's like, I think I could get you to like a beer. I remember
like a roasty stout or something.
Well, for sure. I mean, you could do a coffee adjuncted stout. There's plenty of roasty stouts that have no adjuncts, And, I remember years ago I was at Thanksgiving and I had Southern Tier's Plum King, and my aunt's like, oh, I don't like beer at all. I'm like, do you like pumpkin pie? She's like, yeah. I'm like, just try a sip. I'm like, but that's the thing too. Like, not to pick on Coors Light a third time, but beer had been one thing to so many people for so long. It's like, that is one style. Like that is not beer. It's not beer equals sign that style. So I think you do have wine. And again, to bring up history, I mean, wine was the drink of the Romans, and the barbarians up north drank beer. I mean, we're still fighting that fight too, But in terms of palate stuff, yeah, like what flavor, whether it's in wine, a spirit or not, what flavors do you like, and let's work with it,
Right. And I think, so like you said, not to pick on Coors Light or any of the macro guys out there. I think no matter what beer you brew, what beer that you make, there's something for everyone out there for sure. And the volume in which they have to brew, I do give them mad respect, outside of different corporate practices that we won't get into. I give them, the brewers themselves mad respect for being able to brew that amount of volume with that type of consistency, because that's not the easiest thing to do.
It's amazing.
But one thing I did want to point out, once when they realized craft beer wasn't a fad and it was here to stay. I mean, home brewing has been around since, when was it legalized? The 80s?
Late 70s, I think.
Late 70s, early 80s. Yeah, that sounds right. They thought that it was going to be a fad, and it slowly built up to where, folks were opening up breweries all over the country. Once they realized it wasn't a fad, you saw how they changed like their marketing campaign. I always thought this was interesting because being a business owner, I look at things through this lens. Once when they realized like, okay, well, we can't, on a media perspective, attack the little guy, because that's what America's built on, or small business. Like they couldn't come out and do that. Like they would be vilified, right? So what do? They changed the narrative between it's beer versus spirits, it's beer versus wine. It's, kind of creating that segmentation there. And I always thought, wow, that was interesting. So they definitely have a lot of, smart people.
I know what they're doing. Buy up some craft breweries, make something else the enemy. Oh no, for sure, yeah. I get it.
And is it almost time for your second brew?
I think I got to grab it. I got my beer fridge. Let me grab it. Yeah, so the Omegang Brewery, they have big, a large network for distribution, and they're local to me. So I wanted to, like I said, do a local-ish one to you and a local-ish one to me. So Three Philosophers is their quad, and it's from 2013, so it's 7 years old. So.
Wow, man, you have some whales.
My oldest one of these is 2011, so I'm waiting until 2021 to have 10 years on it to do a review of that.
That is freaking awesome.
Heck yeah.
So what I'm popping in the glass now is from the Leaning Cask Brewery. They're in Springdale, Pennsylvania. Actually very, very close to where I grew up out in New Kensington. Springdale is literally right across the bridge. I know Pittsburgh, we have many of those options. But a super good brewery. The owner, Josh, is one of the most humble. We actually have a daily sip episode with Josh at the Leaning Cask Brewing Company. He is so humble, but once when you dive into the nitty gritty, he's one of the smartest people I've ever met in beer. This brewery specifically, he took a trip over to Europe, fell in love with their brewing styles. They were there for, I believe, a little over a month visiting family. He was going pub to pub. Now their pubs are brewing their own beers on site, all that kind of stuff. So a lot of that community neighborhood brewing feel. And he was spending a lot of time at quite a few of them. And he just loved the cask ale brewing style, more flavor, not necessarily a little lax on temperature control, just a little bit warmer. And that's, as you know, as many of your subscribers know, and both of our subscribers, the warmer something is, the more flavor profile your palate can actually pick up on. So they experiment tons with cask ales, and this beer specifically, there's majorly pet friendly, which we love because we have a little beagle. And this is the Pointer Porter. It is obviously a porter coming in at 6.4%. I believe I had one of these, but it's been a while. They don't give a lot on the taste. Oh, okay. So it's an American porter fermented with Madagascar vanilla beans. Ooh. They're putting that money into this glass because those are not cheap.
Wait, am I remembering correctly? You like porters is a big style for you, right?
Yes, we love porters so much. We actually named our dog Porter.
Oh, okay. That's awesome. when we got our dog, I was that dad who was like, I don't want a dog. I'm not doing anything for this dog. You guys are going to do everything, blah, 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 blah. And he came with the name Bruno. So my
Aw.
wife was like, no, let's rename him Stout. You know, like you like, beer. We'll rename him Stout for you. And it's like, nah, he's taken to Bruno. And then who watches my channel knows I'm like obsessed with my dog. So yeah, I totally am one of those dads who went
Oh
from
yeah.
I don't want a dog to he's the greatest thing that's ever happened in my life.
Oh, they are awesome. And we obviously knew that. That's why we sneak some stuff for your dog in your brew boxes every month. Yeah, we were actually thinking, when we were, okay, what are we going to name our beagle? Beagles are naturally smaller dogs. We thought Stout at first, but we were like, it feels cheesy. Like, am I breaking up at all? It said something about internet.
For a moment, yeah, but you're back.
It's, naming a beagle Stout just felt cheesy a little bit, but we're like Porter. I've never met another dog named Porter before. And
except the less common one. Yeah, I don't know if I have. Yeah.
Right. And to your point, absolutely, like she changed my life. Now I grew up with dogs, so I knew that I loved dogs, but my wife, we really wanted a dog, trying to practice this whole thing before we bring children into the world. And I told her, I was like, look, I'm going to love this dog a lot, so you better not be getting jealous at all.
My wife's very jealous of me and the dog.
Oh yeah, no, she ended up being right. So I have to kind of watch my vernacular, because I say, I was like, man, and I mean it. Like, that dog is my best friend, but then she looks at me, and then I go, with 4 legs. I have to preface it.
That's funny. Yeah, luckily my wife and I both are way nicer to the dog, talk nicer to the dog than each other. Yeah, so that's a two-way street. How much
man,
coming through in that?
So vanilla wise, is that what you asked? How much vanilla?
Yeah.
The vanilla, so the roastiness of the porter itself, so it definitely has that solid roasty body. I think it masks some of the vanilla, but what I think the vanilla is doing is giving it a little bit more of that softer, not necessarily velvety mouthfeel, but almost velvety. I think it's definitely carrying over on the mouthfeel. And on the back end, it's heavy on the roast, but it makes it, I don't know, I get a feeling that it makes it more natural of a mouthfeel and natural of a taste.
Nice.
Is my opinion.
I love, the vanilla with a style like that, because that roast can kind of get chocolatey, and then it's almost
right.
The vanilla and the chocolate can work so well together, like a twist ice cream cone or something.
Right.
Like I love that. So good on them for putting some vanilla in there. That's cool.
Yeah, they definitely did. I know it's not the most inexpensive stuff that you can do. But while we're on that topic with your vast beer tasting experience, I'm just curious, have you ever done Stone Brewing's Neapolitan Dynamite?
I don't think I've had theirs. I've had that style from other breweries, but I don't think theirs. No.
Yeah. What do you think about when breweries try to do like a Neapolitan style, whether it's a stout or whatever style they go with?
I think, if I'm remembering correctly, the ones I've had were stouts. Again, the vanilla and chocolate, I think, work so well together. My hang up would be how the strawberry comes through. Is it artificial tasting, which is going to take me out of the beer experience? I guess, like, when I think of stouts, you can get, berry notes, dark fruit notes. So I'm not opposed to inherently, I'm not opposed to strawberry as a flavor in a stout, but I think I've had some bad ones and I've had some good ones. For me, it's kind of like one extreme or the other. I don't know if ever I was like, it's okay. I think it's either like, don't want that again, or when are you guys brewing this again?
Yeah, no, I definitely get that. And so that makes me think of, you get a lot of surprise packages, right? Like sent out to you a beer. So can you tell me a little bit, like, when you get those unmarked cans, like those, you've done some surprise cans, right? Where they kind of covered it up.
Yeah. Those are so great.
Yeah. Tell me a little bit about that. Cause while I was grabbing some brews for this, I actually found a can in the fridge that I think I don't know who gave it to us, but it's unmarked. And I'm like, I don't know if I want to have that one on here.
That's our lager with burgers.
Oh, never mind. I just found out that's a collaboration beer that we did. But tell me a little bit about some of the stuff, some of the unmarked packages that you get.
Yeah, it's the purest way to review a thing, right? Is if you don't know what you're consuming. I think that's probably the best word is just it's pure. You're not, it's the reason one of the two reasons I call the channel No Hype is if I am doing a beer that like people are like, oh no, this beer is amazing. I really try to go in and not let that affect me.
Right.
But I mean, the only way to completely do that is to not know what you're drinking.
That's true. Like a trailer to a movie. If you see a trailer and it was a No Hype trailer, then you're like, I don't know what I'm going to think about this.
Yeah.
But if it was a super like insane trailer, whether or not you want to be a non-biased critic, like that's going to definitely play a role.
For sure. It's human. I mean, you can't get it 100% of your head.
Right.
I don't watch a ton of reality TV, but I used to watch a lot of Hell's Kitchen.
Oh,
and my favorite thing they ever did on that was when they would blindfold them and then have them like try to say what the ingredient was. So, like if they're eating a little bit of chive or whatever, do they think it's onion or do they realize it's chive or whatever the thing is? And I'm like, that is the best way to tell how good their palate is.
Right.
I feel the same way with this, where it's, if I read a can, like what you're drinking now, if you did that blind, would you have known there was vanilla in there, or did it work?
That's a good point.
Did it integrate so well with what the porter was doing where you're like, this is delicious, but at no point did you say, and it has vanilla added,
Right.
It's just
right. No, that's a perfect point, right? Like if I was blindfolded and I tried that beer, I wouldn't know that it had vanilla in it, but because I know, I understand that that's why it affected the mouthfeel.
Yes.
So it's like it helps you fill those gaps.
Yep.
But that's only if you've been doing like tons of beer tastings and that kind of stuff. Would you even be able to pick up on, those kind of nuances? But also to your point, is that real life or is that in my head? Like we'll never know.
That's the thing. Yeah, that's why it's so cool to do it that way. Yeah, no, it's so much fun. Yeah.
How many of those packages would you say that you get? One a month, twice a month? I'm just curious.
So, yeah, there's a few people who send them, and then there's a couple breweries who have been recently. So, yeah, for a long time I didn't get anything, and then I don't know the last 6 months maybe I started getting about once a month. Yeah. And it's cool. Well, and that's another thing actually, and it actually kind of leads into a thing I wanted to ask you. Speaking of trying to be truthful and things like that, not having bias, if a brewery is sending me a beer, or like the last one I did where my friend Chris sent it to me, are you going to be kinder to it because someone sent it to you, or are you going to be honest? And luckily I've had, really good experiences where they're like, no, we want to know what you think. Like if you don't like it, or if there's, some stuff that isn't good, in your palate, and there's some things you do like, yeah, we want you to be truthful, which is good. I've got no pressure to I'm not making advertisements, I'm here.
But you're not making money off of it, right?
Yeah,
it's not like they're not paying you or anything like that.
Yeah, it's not something like that at all. And it does make me think one of the things, actually, this is actually what I'm probably most interested in that I wanted to ask you, because having subscribed to your box for a while, there are some things that you have gone back to the same company on.
Right.
I think like those pretzels, which I love and have talked about, but then there's obviously the innovation side where I want to work with a new brewery or a new producer of a beer adjacent product.
Right.
Where's that line for you where you're like, I want the tried and true, the people I have good relationships, I want to throw them some business this month and use their stuff, versus I know I got to have some new stuff or people are going to think this is fail?
So it's a great question. So part of that is, feedback from our subscribers. A lot of it's based on that. Even if they gave us the best pricing, in the world, gave it to us for free, all that stuff, if our people do not like it, we're not going to use it again, right? So I would say that's first and foremost customer feedback. Now we're working on different ways to get more feedback from our subscribers so we can make better decisions on that type of stuff. But like that pretzel company, so I'm a very relationship-based person.
Okay.
If I have a really good relationship with somebody, now that's whether we're doing a collaboration with a brewery on both making a beer, featuring them in the brew box, or a company. If I know that they are a great person and I enjoy working with them, and I feel like this is an overlap with most humans, if they enjoy someone, they're going to keep creating scenarios in which they interact with that person, right?
Yeah.
So, for example, that pretzel company, I know who he is, Andy. Like, we're friends on Facebook. He was back when we first started. Like, who the hell was first at Brewbox? And even still, who the hell was first at Brewbox? I don't know.
You guys are getting all that presso, man. All these top 10 lists.
Hustling.
So
It's just that tenacity and not giving up, man. That's what that all is. But that's another conversation we'll definitely have. But you know, with Andy from day one, he was like, "I love your concept. I love what you guys do." Back before we were focusing on getting products at no cost, because that was before we realized the marketing value that we have the companies. Like, they would traditionally have to hire a small PR team to do what we do for them. So once we realized that benefit to those companies, you know, Andy, right off the gate, he was giving us the pricing that he would give like Walmart. Not that he's with Walmart, but, you know, a big distributor.
Yep.
And the pricing was so inexpensive for us that it made us realize, like, man, you know, before we even had a lot of the accolades that we do now, this guy really treated us like, again, it could be perception too, right? Like, we're a small company, but the amount of work that we put in, you might think that we have this whole team, which we don't. It's me, my wife, and now 4 interns, which is awesome. And they're all paid, by the way, just when they're all paid. That he treated us like, you know, we're this mid-sized company, and that resonated with me, and that would resonate with me for the rest of my life. And it does help. He has a great product.
Yeah,
right? Because even if he did all that stuff and his product was crappy, then I would just have to buy it and just eat it myself, right? But his product actually is really good. Boardwalk Foods out of Sarasota, Florida. Really great guy. So I think that's kind of how we make our decision process. Again, it's not a perfect science, but we are a relationship-based company, and that's what that's how we've grown. Our mantra is the best friend of a small business is another small business. We truly believe that every single day. And so to answer your question, make a long story short, it's customer feedback, it's relationship-based. And obviously, at the end of the day, it has to make a financial sense, because we are running an extremely lean business, where, you know, a couple of bad decisions in a row would cause us to then have to, you know, pivot into emergency mode and you know, to bring revenue and that kind of stuff. So
yeah.
I hope that answered it. Sometimes
no, it makes sense, and it shows how much I'm not of the business world doing what I do for a living. I didn't even think about customer feedback.
Right.
I was just thinking about, like,
well, it's weird because you kind of do, because your customers are your subscribers and they're constantly commenting on stuff.
True.
So I know at some level you do,
that's true,
you know, kind of absorb that.
Yeah. No, there is some of that. Yeah. And some people are like, very like, you know, I would like you to review more of this, you know, so sometimes it's really obvious and sometimes it's less obvious, but no, that's fair. That's a fair point. No, for sure.
So that, again, we're just pivoting so well off of questions so I learned something from your platform. Someone had, and I didn't know that there was not necessarily trolls on YouTube, because there's trolls everywhere, but those fake accounts, like county type stuff. I didn't think that was like YouTube on YouTube, because to me, YouTube's a little bit more of a sophisticated platform. I wouldn't know, like, even how you would do that. Like, obviously I understand doing it on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, like fake bot accounts, I guess, because we're relatively new to YouTube, you know, this last year, that I didn't think that was also a thing there. You had commented, like, it was just so, there's no other way to explain it other than it just being so Kyle. So this person spammed like 2 of your videos, and you're like, hey man, just so you know, you kind of, span both of these videos at once. Like, you just made it so nonchalant that I was like, it was kind of like an art form. So I saw that, and then we're recently going through something where this company that subscribed to us, I don't company person, you could be anyone you want to be on social media.
Yeah.
But they were like, do you want to be friends? I'm like, 4 different videos. I'm like, at first I was like, yeah, man, that's fine. And then when I saw it pop up on like 4 more videos, I was like, oh, that's a shame, because I wanted to be your friend.
Yeah. That specific one, I mean, there is at least one guy I get, or person, I obviously have no idea who it is. They'll use the word friend. It's like, oh, that sounds nice. And it's just like, oh, wait, you wrote this last week, the same, poor punctuation and capitalization. It's
right.
Obviously, you're just trying to up your own subscribers or whatever. Well, and that's the thing too, is, and this definitely relates to both of us, in the social media space. I want people who are interested. Like, I there's people who do beer reviews who they put themselves out there in ways I don't, which is fine. I mean, people are different. That's fine. It's not a judgmental thing. But me, like, I just want people who actually want to talk about this specific thing.
Right.
I'm not trying to trade, like, oh, I'll subscribe to your, barbecues, whatever. And I love barbecue, and I watch those videos. That's why I'm thinking about it. Unless maybe you talk about beer in that, or I start doing
like
barbecue.
Maybe pairing between beer and barbecue.
Yeah, something like that.
Something.
Then it's like, okay, I get that. And I might subscribe just as a person who wants to keep watching your channel, but I don't, and maybe because those are both consumables, it's not the best example, but there are some things where I'm like,
but it's a true example with you being a foodie. Like, that's a real example.
Yeah. And I do use this account to subscribe to things that I'm just interested in that
Same.
are here, which is fine.
Right.
But yeah, this idea of I'll sub to your channel if you sub to mine. It's
right,
like,
that follow for follow. Right.
Like, I'm not just going.
And to me, that's stupid. That is the worst idea in the world. Why would you want to follow for follow? Yeah, it's going to get your vanity metrics up.
Yeah.
Which, I don't care if you have 50,000. Like, honestly, there have been people that were like, hey, and again, this is a tribute to you on 2 ways that I'll get to. One being that, they're like, hey, we'll do a unboxing video for you. Just send us all the stuff. That kind of stuff. And I look on there, yeah, they have, 20, 30, 40,000 people, but their engagement is terrible.
Yeah.
They're not that I'm a big like-dislike ratio. I don't care about that. To me, I include them all as good because people took the time to actually give you feedback on your video. They're at least engaging, but there's really no engagement where your videos that you have done have tons of engagement. And another thing, people ask us for free products, and then I'm like, yeah, we don't do that. And they're like, oh, well, this is what we're doing, blah, blah, blah. And I know it's kind of contradictory because, that's what we ask for breweries and everything. But also at the same time, you have kind of changed our opinion on how we interact with influencers. Because I'm like, no, Kyle does great work, and he's subscribing and paying for a box every month. I cannot, in good conscience, this ties back to me being very relationship-based, I cannot send you something for free when we have someone that does top-quality production, honest reviews, and they put it out there to a very engaging subscriber base, and send you stuff for free. I was like, we're not going to do that.
Yeah. So, yeah, and I mean, people, they have their business plans, and it's fine. It's what works for someone doesn't work for another person. Yeah, it's complicated. Yeah, in some ways, and you just said it too. In some ways, you're an advertiser, an influencer, make people aware of this thing.
Right.
In some ways, I do the same thing, and in some ways, it's like if the few times people, non-beer related stuff, at least it was on beer brand where they're like, hey, try we'll send you this for free. But if it was something that had nothing to do with the content I'm doing, I'd be like, well, no, I don't care that it's free.
Right.
And it's I don't know. It's weird.
Yeah, that's the environment that we live in.
Yeah.
Oh, so how's that beer treating you?
Good. This is really good. Yeah. And speaking of aging beers, it's interesting how the flavors have melded together very much. I love quads, and it's my favorite thing is that plum quality you can get in them.
Right.
It has plum and prune at the same time. It's smooth. It's almost 10%, so it's almost double.
Ooh, you ain't playing around today.
That's why I want to drink that 4% one first. But hey, Bruno. Oh, hi, wife. Car keys.
She's like, oh, I heard you're drinking a 10%er. Give me those car keys.
But it's really good. I think age does well for alcohol taste. So it's very smooth that way. You don't get there's no burn, and it's hard to even identify that it has that alcohol content. It's really good. I love this beer. It's creamy. It's good. Yeah.
Oh man, when was the last time you had one of those?
I don't remember. I'm aging a bunch of them, and it's Oma Gang. They have good distribution, so
they do.
You can get them pretty easily. It's a bigger one, so sometimes when I go for their stuff, I want like Hennepin is a one from them I like a lot. It's a little lower.
Oh yeah.
But they're and again just how things change over time and craft beer and things like that. That was like one of the few local breweries back when I got into craft beer, and now it's like one of 50 or whatever.
It's awesome. I know they do a lot of those Game of Thrones beers. I don't know if you've had a few. Wasn't there like a Third Eye Raven or a Three-Eyed Raven one that they did?
That was one. Yeah, whatever the name was, but yeah. They had a bunch. It was cool. Like HBO contacted them, and
right.
Kind of like what you were just talking about. It wasn't like they solicited it. It was just like, hey, we want to work with you, and it was
right.
Very nice that way. Kind of lost my train of thought. Sorry. But anyway,
no.
A bunch of those.
Oh, you're drinking that almost 10%, man. That's okay. You get a few of those cards.
Yeah, seriously. But yeah, no, it's rad. So I could see this time period, like one of the few things you can do for people is like I sent my mom flowers for Mother's Day, and we don't have to get into specifics, but I'll phrase it more of how are you pivoting the business right now? I could see it going both ways. I could see people like, I got to save money right now. I don't want this right now. I could see people being like, you know what? My friend needs some cheering up. I'm getting this for them. I could see it going up or down right now. We don't have to get into that if you don't want to. But
no, man, I'll slide in those DMs all day. Okay. I never turn down any question. I'm a big fan of transparency. And again, like I said earlier, what the wife hates, I love talking. So to answer your question, so just to rephrase, your big thing was you wanted to know how we pivoted because of COVID, right? Is that so? At first, when everything was hitting, online sales like dried up. They were non-existent. I think that was just people being unsure. Like, can this be transmitted through things we get in the mail? I don't know where the economy's going. Like, there was just so much uncertainty.
Yeah,
and we knew that we had to pivot and do something about that, or else we were going to be in for a very tough time weathering the storm. So then we kind of switched gears to focusing on spreading a message of positivity and partnering with a struggling industry. This industry, the craft beer industry, over the last 5 years, because you see companies come and go in this industry all the time. Like, they come in, like, not to paraphrase the song, but they come in like a wrecking ball, and then they realize this shit's hard, right? Like, not only is it hard to run a business, it's hard to penetrate the craft beer industry, because you're talking about middle America that has found a way to prosper and follow their dreams, which is 90% of brewery owners, without, venture capitalists, major investments, that kind of stuff. They're people just like me and you that it's like, hey, I'm a history buff. You're a social studies teacher. Let's start a brewery based upon, our whole mantra could be like different historical facts throughout, the civilization of the world, which bookmark that because that sounds phenomenal. I would drink all
It's a
those
cool
beers.
business idea.
Those folks are traditionally more, all right, why are you trying to sell me something? Like, what's going on here? So, but we've been in the industry so long that these folks have become our family.
Yeah.
So we want to do everything that we can to help that family. And so once we made that transition, sales started pouring in. Like, we're now as busy as we are around Christmas time.
Wow.
Just and it also that humility aspect, people reaching out to us that have been fans and supporters of us. Hey, how can I help you guys? I'm like, hey, just like yourself, you went ahead and got a year subscription.
Yeah.
Like, just so people know when things like that happen, we're like, all right, we could pay rent that month. We can that is so huge for small business owners. So we started focusing on the last few months, as receiving the Brew Box, focusing on, local small business, craft beer industry. And we still tie the design into being a really nice craft beer theme.
Yeah.
But another reason why we're going that route, breweries, with them being down to 20% of their normal total revenue, just focusing on to-go sales because it's all they can do now. And even for the foreseeable future, when they start opening up, it's going to be 50% or less of their normal occupancy rate. There's that ramp up period after post-COVID. They have no more marketing budget. So we had to realize, like, there's things that we have to put in place now because breweries aren't going to have the money to send us pint glasses, stickers, T-shirts, that kind of stuff. And this also highlighted for us, traditionally when we were sending out brewery hyper-specific stuff, we would get fans of that brewery and that brand, which is awesome. Like, that's what we built our business on. But by us pivoting to the last few designs that we did, hiring local artists to do them. We don't work with any bigger companies. They're all like single person design artists. Like Sammy, my wife, she drafts what the design would look like. And then, we work with a small local artist that would actually digitize it and design it, graphically. We only work with small folks, and that's kind of what's pulling us through this. People are just seeing that, embracing it, and breweries, they can't afford to do stuff like that anymore. But we are putting a plan in place. Like, all right, we know breweries don't have money right now. How can we still partner and work with them? And with our team that we have now, we're focusing on what we saw some success before in the past is working with tourism bureaus. So they may have more funding now. Because of everything, and their job is to drive traffic to their area. So we're actually looking to partner with multiple tourism bureaus around the country to fund these projects so the breweries don't pay anything. And if you're a brewery owner or someone that loves a specific brewery, please let them know to contact their local tourism department to get a hold of us, because we will jump on that to work with that department, because the job of a tourism bureau is to drive traffic back into their area, and craft beer is phenomenal at bringing in outside, visitors. So they can work with us. We can, do a brew box feature or do some type of design for them to really build the hype and the no hype to drive traffic back into there. So that's kind of, where we are as a brand, realizing that that's going on and that we have to pivot, but also knowing that we have to have a roadmap of getting back to our roots.
Yeah.
Which we're trying to do.
Well, it's smart. And I think, you leaned into, especially just specifically these last two shirt designs. I mean, exactly as you said, that this is what's on people's minds is I'm trying to, not to make it overly complicated, but I'm trying to worry about my personal finance, which I'm very lucky. My wife and I are both currently employed during all of this, but still there's, if there's budget cuts, I might lose my job. I mean, there are these concerns, Also, I like some of these local breweries a lot, so I want to throw them some business. There's some local restaurants I like. I want to do some takeout delivery from them. So trying to figure all this out. But it's on people's minds. I want to support local. You lean into this mindset of, hey, like, I'm going to make T-shirt designs, for example, about this. And going back to one of the original things we talked about, like your Fearless video, it's not phony. Like
Right.
you have given, you have put into your boxes very localized things, you know, so it's like, well, clearly this company does like the local people they're working with, and other small businesses, which this one's a little bit maybe more, specific towards, but it's earned, you know,
Right.
it's not make believe. I feel like this could be truth. It's like, no, like they've consistently shown like this is, and as you said not too long ago, you know, the best thing for a small business is working with another small business and
Right.
figuring things out, you know? So, I mean, it's authentic, which I think, and we talked about this earlier as well, you know, people can spot a phony a mile away, you know? So like, you know, if you're making this cool design, but you can't, you know, you're talking the talk, but you don't walk the walk, people are going to see, and you might sell these shirts, but people are going to catch on, and, you know, 2 designs from now, they might be like, yeah, this company is not legit, you know, and then you're done. Like you said, a couple bad choices away, you know, a couple, you know, falsehoods away from people losing trust in you. And
Right.
you know, you're doing it the right way and the real way, which is great.
Right. 100%. And so just to segue into, I know that you had some fun questions.
Let's talk about people losing their jobs and
we want people to know that there's hope. There's still hope at the end of this video.
There is no, you know, no, things are, no, there's a lot of hope. Yeah, no, I was trying to think of like, I like the idea of business. I'm not, as you said, you wanted the thing, you know, and I found my thing, which is teaching, and I'm so content and happy, and that's what I want. You have found your thing, which is this business side.
Right.
But that being said, I do like the idea of business and watching Shark Tank or whatever. Like I like, you know, that kind of a thing. So I did, like, the first questions I kind of had in my head, you know, were specific to, pivoting right now. How do you, you know, the tried and true companies versus innovation and new. But I knew we had to have some fun conversations. You know, so I'm a huge, if you're not familiar with my channel, I'm a huge, you know, comic book nerd. So of course I wanted to know if you could have one superpower. What would it be?
Ooh. Oh, it could be any superpower.
Any superpower. Any power. I mean, just anything.
I would say any superpower, it would be. Honestly, I'm a big nerd when it comes to the flow of time. Okay. I would love to find some way to pause, reverse, and fast forward time, to be honest. And cool. So one of my first dates I had with my wife, I explained to her some of the theories of time travel and why I believe that it's possible, and actually, you know, drew it on how, you know, the amount of gravitational force affects the flow of time with the understanding of physics that we have now. And, you know, so there is truth behind that. I am a huge physics nerd. And, you know, that's kind of what I would do. I would love to have control of time, because if you do that, literally nothing could beat you.
It's so true.
Might be a little OP for some people, a little overpowered as far as superhero and comics go, but, you know, so is Superman.
I think, like Doctor Strange, you know, and being able to, like, go back and redo scenarios and things like that, right, into the future and scenarios. I mean, that is, I mean, I like that you mentioned the overpowered thing. I mean, and what's the fun talk about superpowers if they're not super? So that's fine.
Right. No, it's true. And I'm a big anime fan too. So like seeing some of the crossover with Dragon Ball Z and like Superman or you know, One Punch Man and the Hulk and that kind of stuff. And just for the record, I'm a huge Hulk fan. I do believe he can, and he does have the possibility of beating Superman. My father-in-law disagrees full-heartedly.
I'm a big Superman fan, and to me, it's interesting that, again, the overpower thing. It's like, I get that, but like, he is the archetype, you know, right. He is the Greek mythology, or the birth of that for you know, comic books, you know. So yeah, I'm totally cool with Superman.
Yeah. I just hate how he also has a perfect hairline. Like, why can't he not be bald?
I'm very jealous.
If you're going to be that in like OP, why can you not at least be bald? And then you would be my dude.
Got the muscles, the hairline, the
You
strong
can't.
chin. You got everything.
Like, us regular guys don't stand a chance.
Not at all. No. Yeah, no one's casting me to be Superman in a movie. Maybe Lex Luthor. Yeah, the strength thing is what I go back to. I when I was young, I used to love that '90s X-Men cartoon, and
Oh yeah.
anytime Colossus it was so good. It was so well done. Anytime Colossus was on, I was just like, yeah, I'm 6'4", I'm a bigger guy, and like this gentle giant, but he could, be invincible, and he could, help someone. And it was just like, oh wow, like I said earlier, like I'm, overly emotional, and I'm like this. I got this big frame. I'm bald with a beard. I look one way, and then I'm like completely a different way in reality,
Right.
And he was. I love Colossus. It's like, yeah, he's so gentle and huge, and when he needs to, he can turn it on, like literally turn it on, and then when he doesn't need to, he's just a nice guy who's walking around helping people. But yeah, no, flight would be cool, but right now I don't want to fly because I don't want to go anywhere. So,
or it's the only safe way to travel.
True. That's true. That's a good point. That's a really good
flight
point.
would be awesome because that's the only way that I would enjoy flying is if I was in full control.
True. Yeah, no middle seat when you're the one flying yourself.
Yeah, that's it. That's it. Oh man, there's just so many superpowers, right? Like I would love to also travel at light speed because I have such a fascination for space.
Yeah.
Oh man, just so much. Well, that was an awesome question. Like it really made me flash back to my childhood, waiting up, eating a bowl of sugary cereal on Saturday morning, which kids won't know these days because they stream everything.
That's something that drives me crazy is like this idea that talking about something like comics or superpowers is I understand the idea that it's childlike or whatever, but it's like I've paid every bill I've ever had on time. I go to work every day. So like anything that you think is what an adult does, I do that, like, I don't know. It seems silly and judgmental to me that people be like, oh, you still do that. It's like people be like, well, you have all these like figurines in your room. It's like, yeah, that I paid for with my money that I earned at my job. And I went to college and I, I've worked since I was 15. Like, I'm sorry, what is adulting to you? Like, I take care of my kids, my family. I have a roof over. Like, what do you want from me? It's like, yeah, I enjoy things. I'm sorry that doesn't narrow definition of adulthood.
And a segue that I know you would fully appreciate. I'm such a big anime fan. Like, I subscribe to like 4 different anime platforms that there's things that I have watched that have provoked my imagination since I was in middle school. That I just fell in love with that whole everything that it represented. And some people go, oh, you watch anime, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
I'm like, so I'm open about the things that I like.
Yeah.
Are you?
I have to not enjoy things to be
right.
Like it just seems silly to me. Like what we were talking about earlier, like drink what you want, like what you like.
Right.
It's just so weird.
And I think a lot of people are just, afraid of other people's judgment. I think a lot of folks that, have the, not fascinations, but have the hobbies that we have, both with beer, anime, comic books, action figures, figurines, all that stuff. We don't care what other people think. Like, we will never value someone else's opinion over ourselves. And that's what differs folks that have that opinion. Oh, why would you do this? Like, this isn't how you adult. Well, that's because you value someone else's opinion over what you value about yourself. And I think that's the problem that we run into, especially I see a lot of parallels with entrepreneurship and business. We draw you're successful, when you reach that $1 million mark, right? Like we use financial measuring sticks for happiness. And I think that fundamentally needs to change as a country. Like success isn't measured on how much money you made. It's measured on how happy you are.
Exactly.
Right?
You specifically are doing, you're your own boss, you're doing something you want to be doing, and you have a roof over your head.
Right.
You know,
Right.
I've had, because there's like that stupid expression, those who can't do teach. And I'm like, what can I do? I'm like, I wanted to teach. I teach. I've traveled the world. I have a house. I have food. I have beer. I have, you know, if I want to buy these silly figurines, I have money to buy. What is it that you think I should be doing? It's just so odd, but it's like, I'm happy.
Right.
Like, I love going to work. I remember this was one of the, this is like one of those moments I brought back to my classroom. Like, I had a life experience, just here's a thing, do with it whatever you want. And we're hanging out with a friend of my wife's, and her friend is literally married to a millionaire. And like, we're at their place in the Hamptons, and it's beautiful. And I'd never met the guys who were talking. And I was talking about how I'm happy to go to work every day. He's like, I've never liked going to my job. It's just like, you're in this mansion in the Hamptons that this guy can afford, has never liked going to his job. You know, I have a 4-bedroom house, 2.5 baths, love going to my job every day. What is success? So 100% what your point is. Like, what is, and he's a really nice guy. This is not a judgmental thing one way or the other. It's just like, why would you look down at the happy person who doesn't need anything? I don't, it's such an odd thing. Yeah, I agree 100% with you.
And I think the key in what we've been talking about, you know, sporadically through this whole hangout is self-awareness, like just knowing what makes you happy, not caring about what someone else's opinion is, and just doing it.
100% true. 100% true.
So the fun, crazy question that I had for you, let me get it pulled up, is if we found a tribe in the Amazon that has never met another human, and you were to share a beer with them, or if you were to share with them their first beer, what would you choose and why?
Man, so like we're talking about before with like wine drinkers and, you know, like spirit drinkers, what do you pick? I'm going to cheat a little bit, just a little bit. I'm going to go with something that's half beer. I'm going to go with a braggot. Half honey wine, half mead, and half beer. Because I'm going to assume, like, you know, maybe they've had access to, you know, syrups or honey or something. So it's like, all right, you know, you know this flavor. Now let me get you drunk. That's
Now we get into the real traditions.
I just like, because I thought about this. I'm like, well, you don't want to do a sour because you're kind of programmed like sour means poisonous or something. So you don't want to go with that because they're going to freak out. I don't want to go like something too bitter, like an old school pale ale or something. Actually, maybe a New England IPA, like, you know, here's some juice. You guys are used to fruit. Actually, maybe that's a better answer.
You know, and it's funny. So there's some overlap with what I was thinking. I actually wanted to do a sour, and here's my rationale.
Okay.
I wanted to do a goza that it's not necessarily, you know, a kettle sour or full-blown sour, so it still gives them a little bit of it, right, that kind of pique their interest, but then there's still like that salt component of it, where if you're living a lifestyle where you're constantly active, like your body craves electrolytes. So if they actually experience, you know, like a Dogfish Head Sea Quench, and it had a little bit more of that salty component to it, they, on some level, will understand, oh, this is actually, you know, my body likes this. It needs this. It will crave this.
That's a really good point. And actually, that beer specifically is such a good example of that.
It's so tasty.
I love that beer.
It's so good. My wife went through a phase where every time we went out to our local, you know, beer hub, beer distributor, we would have to pick up a couple cans of Sea Quench if we were doing some day drinking, you know, either out at a park, boat, like that kind of stuff.
Like I was saying with that first beer I had, you know, it's low alcohol, big flavor. It just like, man, I love that beer.
So when it comes to a braggot, though, I don't remember one in recent history that I've had. But I haven't
had one in a while. I've had some meads in the last couple of years, but the last braggot I had actually was probably about 3 or 4 years ago. Yeah.
Damn, we need to see a comeback. We need to see
you don't see
someone
them a
local.
lot. I don't remember last time I saw one I could have gotten at a brewery or like at a store to buy.
It's been a long time. It had to have been, 4 years since I saw one last.
Yeah, it's been a while for me. Yeah.
But on that note, like, this has been so much fun. So much good conversation, man. This video, I'm going to, release it in its long form, but we've had so many good micro conversations, like the whole thing. Macro conversations have been fantastic. There's so many good micro conversations. I'm probably going to extract as well and release at different times. There's just like this video has probably 7 different video components inside of it. But with that said, thanks for, jumping on. I love doing this collab video, but how can, some of the folks on our platform find out more about you, Kyle, at No Hype Beer Reviews?
Yeah, so I'm on Instagram, Untapped, and YouTube. It's all No Hype Beer Reviews at all 3 of those places. So just type in No Hype Beer Reviews and wherever your preference is. YouTube's my main thing because that's where I do my specific beer reviews, but I do try to throw up on Untapped, like, here's what I've been drinking, and Instagram kind of lets people know, like, hey, this is the video I posted today. So it's kind of advertising for my videos that way. But yeah, No Hype Beer Reviews at all 3 places. Yeah. And then I'm going to post this stuff on mine. So how can people find you, Dennis?
Yeah. So website, firstsipbrewbox.com. It gives you a fully tailored experience. You choose what level of subscription box, how long you want it, cancel anytime, shoot me an email. You can reach me at dennis@firstsipbrewbox.com. And I'm more than happy to answer literally any question, whether it's about beer, things going on in the industry, product companies, all that good fun stuff. All of our social media handles are at First Sip Brewbox. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Pinterest, YouTube, LinkedIn, TikTok, and soon to be Snapchat. We're trying to figure that out. And we're trying to figure TikTok out too. That is not the easiest. I mean, it's easy, right? It's straightforward, but just getting used to it.
You're braver than me. I'm not messing with TikTok.
But TikTok, I mean, as of right now on this planet, it's the #1 organic driver for growth. Everyone else, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, they've all found ways to monetize that traffic, and it's not a free-to-play system. At least for right now, TikTok is free to play. You can outperform celebrities on that platform because there's so many free eyes looking at it. And just like, and this isn't a TikTok video, but just like Facebook and Instagram, it ages up, right? Like Instagram originally started out as a platform for photographers. Facebook originally started out as a platform for college students. Now Facebook's a platform for like grandmas and grandpas, and Instagram's for everyone that can take a photo. And, so you could build that following on TikTok now for when it evolves to that next step.
It's true.
Well, definitely thanks so much for jumping on. This was so much fun, and I enjoyed it, and I can't wait to see your next video on a unique beer and jump on something together again.
Sounds good, Dennis. Thank you.
Yeah, cheers.
Cheers. I finished mine.